This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'm joined today with Kelly and Mary, and I'm going to let you both introduce yourselves. I know we were talking before we got started a little bit, but just for those, tell me a little bit about what you teach, what state you're in, what your teaching environment has looked like in the past, what it looks like now. Kelly, we'll start with you, and then I'll let Mary jump in and share.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kelly. I teach in Ohio, more in a rural school district, and I teach in a comprehensive high school. So we kind of have a combination of, college courses, honors courses. We have some career tech pathways, so a nice mix of a lot of different things. I use TestOut. I use Office Pro, and I use IT fundamentals. So yeah, so I'm in Ohio. Like I said, been using test. This is the first year that I've used TestOut. So
Okay, rookie to test out. Good. Mary, you're getting to be quite a veteran now, right? How many years have you been using test out, did you say?
This is my 5th year with
Fifth year.
TestOut.
Awesome.
Yeah. So my name is Mary, and I'm from Illinois. I teach at a vocational center, and it sounds like some of the background that Kelly has that we have in our building. Also, we have 12 different vocational programs here. We have around 18 different school districts that come here to us from their home schools, and the students come in 3 blocks, and certain schools are assigned certain blocks. So they come in during those set blocks, and I get to repeat myself 3 times a day. Um, so that's always fun. I always say third block gets the best teacher, because block 1, it's like, oh, this isn't working. Oh, let's move this. But by the time block 3 rolls around, I got it perfected. So, but I have used Desktop Pro Plus, Network Pro, Security Pro, Linux Pro, PC Pro, of course, and Ethical Hacker.
Wow.
So quite a few of them. I haven't used any of these server courses because I try to find courses that align with what our local college here is that we partner with for dual credit, to try to get my students dual credit. So my courses are now semester based. When I came here initially, they were year-long courses. But the problem with that was when we have some schools send their students 1 year, so they would miss out, because they'd only get 2 classes if they came 2 years. My program is 1 or 2 year program, but like I said, some school districts only send them 1 year because of money. So we just kind of,
What's the furthest you're busing a kid in to your school, like time wise on a bus and to get there?
Let's see. We go far north about 45 minutes to
Okay.
Bureau Valley and Manlius. We go east to Fulton, which is around by Clinton, so that's probably half hour or so. So I think they're pretty much all about 45 minutes that way. Oregon is our furthest one to the other direction, and they are, I'd say it has to be an hour, a little over an hour for
Wow.
Oregon. And
Wow.
they've
One way.
been with
So
us
they're on the bus for
3,
2 hours a day. Wow.
yeah. So, and they've been with us, I think this is their 3rd year. So they're pretty new, but yeah.
Yeah, they need one of those new Wi-Fi enabled buses so kids can work on their homework while
Well,
they're traveling.
well, you know what I told them? I was like, if you guys have unlimited data, check it out. On your bus ride, you can pull up the test out videos and watch them on the way
There you go.
home. And then when you get home, you can do the practice exams in the labs, because you can't do them on the mobile. But there
Right.
you go. You got a time crunch. You got plenty of time. Get it done.
Use your time wisely. Okay, here's a question
Yeah.
for both of you. So one thing that's worked really well this year, and then one thing that you're just like, this is not working at all. So I want to get to one good and one bad that has. This is like what I do with my kids at the dinner table. I'm like, tell me one good thing that worked about today, and tell me one bad thing about today. So, Kelly, you go first. What's one thing you're like, yeah, this is something every teacher should know, and then give me something that you just.
Well, the good, though, if it's only 1 and 1, that's tough because
You
I
can go
have
more if you want.
I can what?
You can go more if you got a couple.
Okay. Because I have a lot of, I came in, I mean, I've experienced a ton of like positive things with TestOut. For one thing, their support is the best support I have ever received with any software program or any type of curriculum that I've used. I'm only in my 4th year of teaching, but I've used multiple different curriculums and softwares, and TestOut has been the best. I truly feel like if I'm in class and we have traditional, like more traditional time frames, so we're only in class for 45 minutes, I really feel like if I had an issue within that 45 minutes with something going on with TestOut, I could call and get hold of a live person and they would help me figure out what was going on. So I would say number one, like their support team is the best. The other thing that I really like about TestOut is with, the pandemic going on, some people are remote, some are hybrid, some are in person. And this curriculum, at least the 2 that I'm using, it is fluid across the board. So if you're remote, this curriculum is amazing. If you're hybrid, this curriculum is amazing. If you're in person, it's amazing. So the way that it can, you can manipulate it and use it to whatever type of schedule you're on is really great. I would have to say one of the downfalls or one of the things I've encountered that isn't that great, other than like, I don't know, some little technical issues, like I think it's really weird you can't see like what lab you're actually in when you're in the lab. So like, if you're in lab 438, when I walk up to a student, I'm always like, well, wait, what
lab
lab
are you
is
in? Yeah.
so
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
and I think I keep hearing this from other TestOut, users, that they would like to see that lab number when the student's in that actual lab. But other than that, the other thing that we've came across that my students don't like, they don't like the videos. I can't get them to watch the videos. Now I can show the videos, and I even play games like, what do you think her name is? What color shirt do you think he's gonna have on today? Do you think he's married? How many? Like we make up stories, and the kids love that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. That's the only thing. I do show some of the videos.
That's good feedback on the videos, and I tell teachers all the time, you know what? That's a hard sell. Right now, we're competing against TikTok videos, Marvel movies. I mean, kids want to be entertained, right? And so,
Yeah.
what we got to do, Kelly, is we got to get one of these, do a live Zoom call with one of the video people that does our video. They would totally do that. That'd be fun. But
Yeah.
videos are a hard sell for anybody.
Made up we've made up stories and names, like, oh, she probably has 3 kids and one's in college. Anything to get them, their creativity flowing. And
so
you
want to hear the funny story? Stuart, the guy with the beard, and
his name's Ben. In our class, his name's
Ben is married actually to one of the other ones, and they live in California. They fly up to do their videos, and then they go back.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, Mary, what about you? What's worked well? Besides the video. I told you guys I'd look into that video. Lab designation.
Yeah. I would echo some of what Kelly has already said, just to kind of to add on to that, the labs, that would be a huge benefit. Like I usually, like, especially walking around the room and checking what they're doing, I have them click on the other tab to see what lab it is, because, usually they're like, I don't know. So that would be the big thing that I would echo as far as the improvement. I guess I should start with the positive thing first. The support, I would echo that also. I think it was my first year using TestOut or the second year. We started having glitching in the certification exam during PC Pro, and it was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I called support, and I love the fact that they were open before, like, the sales office is open. Being that we're on a different time zone, we're in Central and they're on Mountain, but I could call at 8 o'clock here, and even though it was 7 there, they were right on the phone and they walked me through. And not only did they walk through the glitch and explain what happened with it. It was something my students were doing that was out of the norm, but I like the fact that they explained everything about it because what was happening was they'd get to like the fifth or sixth lab in the certification, and instead of taking the power supply off the shelf and just plugging it right into the computer, they were testing it. They would put the power supply tester on it. And so in the programming, they explained to me that they didn't account for somebody doing that. So then I took and turned and explained that to the students. I'm like, if you ordered something off of Amazon, you typically aren't going to take it out and, hey, let me make sure this thing works, unless you've had a bad part from them before. Right. You're going to be hypersensitive about it. But typically, you're just going to throw it in there unless you wouldn't test it. So I was like, this is something out of the norm. But they went, I gave them each student's name. They went in and they resumed the certification right where they left off, and they didn't lose anything in the process. So that's a positive. I would also agree with what Kelly said about the hybrid thing. I have a list written down in my notebook of now what school, I feel like I'm like who's on first, who's on third, all this, because this school is on quarantine from this time to this time. They're calling it adaptive pauses. So like this school is on quarantine, this school, this student over here is on quarantine, this one. It's just crazy.
So because you have all these feeder schools, you're having to account to what they're doing. Wow, that's
exactly. So what I've started doing was changing my quizzes that I do in the class where I can see them, and I've done another copy of a custom quiz with an R for remote. So I put timers on them, and I'm like, based on this, it should take them this long, and I'm actually getting a lot better at doing it, because at first I'm like, it's going to take me faster to do it than they would. So how would I know how to gauge it? So I started looking at the times they were completing it in class and kind of doing an average. And so far it's been working.
Good.
So those are the positives. I would echo the support, the instances of the remote, with the hybrid and the all of that. It's perfect for that. I would say one thing that I would suggest, other than the lab thing, is the sandbox. I mentioned this to Dana because, interestingly enough, Dana Fellows, I got to give him a shout out because he helped me tremendously coming into this job. I came in and, I replaced him here, and he went to TestOut, and he met me here, walked me through a lot of things. I felt like I was one of those people sitting there with like, give me a pen and paper. I don't have enough room to write all this down, and I had to learn on the fly. And he met me here and has helped me. Even now, I'll shoot him a message and say, hey, what was going on when you set this up? Because he set up our network and everything here. He used to be the building tech, and so our similarities are very ironic. I went to Western, got my master's in instructional design. He did the same. He used to be the building tech here. I used to be the building tech. It's just uncanny.
Does that mean soon move from Illinois and move to Utah and come work for TestOut too?
Funny thing, I saw the openings and I was like,
whenever I see those openings, I'm like, I do
exactly.
Great company to work for.
My mom already told me, she's like, if you guys go, I'm coming with you.
Hey, we'll welcome you with open arms.
There's a lab sandbox in PC Pro that I would love. I think it would be awesome. One of my students actually mentioned it, and I thought that's a great idea. The lab sandbox that's in PC Pro would be great to have in networking and security. Because
why we don't do that. Why we don't do. I've never asked the question. I'll ask the question though, and get back to you, because it'd be my opinion. I'm the sales guy, so it's always, that's easy to do. Right?
Exactly.
Don't let development know that, but yeah.
I know. One other thing that I really like about now, so I use two programs. I use IT Fundamentals, and then I use Office Pro, which is all the Microsoft applications. Mm-hmm. Now with the IT Fundamentals, we're on a schedule. Like we have due dates. Like I do a lot more direct teaching with IT fundamentals. With my Office Pro class, this is what's great about this curriculum, is that you could do it where you teach, okay, we're learning Microsoft Office for the next 4 weeks, and then you walk them through, every step. My Microsoft Office class is a semester course, and then they have the opportunity to test and get certified through Certiport as well. So, but I don't want to say I don't teach. I teach, but they work through those individually, which I feel like it's great, because if I have students that are excelling with the applications, like I have some students getting ready to take their 4th Microsoft Office test, and then like
Wow.
just this semester.
That's awesome.
So they started. Yeah, it's very awesome. And I have some that are just getting ready to take their first. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with like the hybrid model, and they're only there 2 days a week. But the thing about it, it's just so nice that I can give the students that flexibility. And so if they really want to work for those certifications, that opportunity is there. If I would have taught through every module in those Microsoft applications, that student, those couple students that I have that are getting ready to take their 4th, we might only be on the 2nd application at this point. But because they're the type of student that's like, no, I want to do this, I'm going to work through this. It's really being able to have that flexibility in that curriculum, and everything is there, that if a learner really wants to learn, it is all there. The videos, the skill lab, the applied labs, the challenge labs, it's all there for them to do, and come to me and say, hey, I'm ready to take the test. So, and then, it also gives you the flexibility of working with that group that needs that discipline, that needs that structure, that needs those due dates. So
that's what I was going to say. Do you feel like you have more time to come back in and help those kids that are struggling? And
yeah, for sure. And even though all of my students are kind of working, and they're all at a different place, within the applications, I move, like during my class, I move from student to student to student. And sometimes I ask myself, like, am I driving myself crazy? Like, I'm literally individualizing everybody's education. But I love Microsoft applications, so I don't mind at all jumping from one to one to one, and it's what works for that student. And I have, I think my biggest class might be 14 students in my Microsoft. So I have a smaller class that I can really individualize.
That makes it sure.
Yeah. So that's one of the good things that I have found, with the curriculum, is that if you want to let students move at their own pace, the curriculum is there to support that student. If you have students that need that individualized attention, that curriculum supports that type of teaching as well.
Right. Mary, are you on the same type of thing, where kind of self-paced model, or you try to keep everybody a little bit more together?
Well, right now I have one student that's an Office Pro, because my other second-year students decided that they wanted to take the security path. So they're trying to get to ethical hacking and that kind of thing. But my numbers vary. Sometimes I might have 1, sometimes I might have 4. But that Office Pro usually doesn't get like super duper high, since I'm running like 5 classes in my class. But they kind of work individually. And then what I do is I use the course pacing guide that TestOut provides in the resources, and I put it in a calendar, and I say, okay, you should be here. So, but listening to Kelly, it kind of makes me think, about opening up that option to have them finish it before the semester's done. Because I think my initial setup of it was the fear of, well, if they finish early, what are they going to do? Because we're connected with the college, but Office Pro is not one of my dual credit courses, because I tried to align it with one of their courses and it didn't work out. They said, oh, our course is different. And I said, my thought was, I think our course is better because it actually prepares them for the Microsoft Office certification, whereas theirs does not. So, like, nah, I got the better one.
Our program's better than yours.
Better not let them see this video.
Okay, here's a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say it makes me think like maybe I should open up that opportunity to have them finish instead of automatically just putting them on a calendar and pacing it out for that 16 weeks. Maybe just opening up, hey, would you, like to finish it in less time than that, and just kind of setting them free and letting them go.
Yeah, I mean the flexibility and adaptability. That's
Mhm.
if you asked me a year ago what's the best thing about TestOut, I'd be like, oh, it's our lab environment. Today, I'm going to tell you, it's the flexibility and adaptability that you're able to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question for you. And this doesn't even have to be TestOut related. This is just, and this could be like your own life. But one thing, if so, we're here at the end of November. It's almost Thanksgiving. Looking back, and one thing you could tell yourself August 1st to warn yourself or prepare yourself for
Mhm.
the fall 2020 school year. What would be one thing? Like I said, it doesn't have to be test out. It could, for Kelly, maybe it's like maybe I need to run more on the weekends. What's something, Mary? We'll start with you this time. What's something your August
Hmm.
1st self would like to tell your November 2020 self?
Is, I guess, don't sweat the small stuff. And like I guess loosen the reins a little bit. Just like I said about with Kelly mentioning that helped me. And I think it's awesome how teachers we can always learn from each other. I don't think there's any teacher out there that says, oh, I can't learn from, well, I shouldn't say there's none, but a good teacher will listen to someone, whether they have been in the field for, 2 months or 2 years or 20 years, because you should always be willing to learn. Always, always, because you can miss out on things. And I tell that to my students. But I would say, especially with Office Pro or just things in general, it doesn't have to be so rigid to a schedule. Not to say we don't have to complete it, but just kind of provide more opportunities for the students to kind of take charge of it and make it their own. And who's to say? Maybe somebody would like to finish networking and security in one semester. Maybe they have that drive and that goal. They should be afforded that opportunity to try it. I've had I would say maybe 3 or 4 students that have taken 2 courses at a time, and I kind of interview them and see where they're at and just kind of find out their background to see if they have a background like, let's say it's networking and Linux. So if you're doing those 2 together, do you have a background in this? Okay, that sounds fine. Or like in this case, Office Pro, taking Office Pro and one of the other test out courses together. Be open, I would say to myself, and not get so where it has to be this way,
Right.
and
I
just
think
kind
that's
of loosen it up.
yeah, great advice. Once again, it's the flexibility of this year and
Hmm.
open to change. I mean, the physical environment continues to change, right? And so, I mean, that's just part of
Yeah.
what we're seeing. What about you, Kelly? One thing you'd tell your August self?
Well, I guess probably, geesh, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of a pessimist, so I feel like I always go into things with really low standards, and then I'm happily
You're
surprised.
happy when yeah, it worked out.
I don't live my life like that all the time, but I mean, I prepared, I guess, to go into this school year how we ended last school year.
Mm,
So I mentally really prepared myself for it. It's actually one of the reasons why I chose Test Out, just because I saw the lab simulation. I had the grant opportunity that I used in the spring. So I got to see a snippet of what TestOut could offer. And with the pandemic and rolling into fall, I thought, you know what? I saw what it did for me in the spring, and I'm changing curriculums and I'm going with it. And it was, because I had used another curriculum for 2 years prior to using TestOut. So, but I think back to, what would I tell myself? I think connecting with these kids socially and emotionally right now is
Mhm.
just the biggest thing. And I think we all started the school year maybe a little optimistic, like it's going to be okay, like we're not going, to have another big wave of COVID cases. And We're going to eventually get into school 5 days a week. And here we are towards the end of November, and that's not really what most school districts are seeing. So I think that I know I feel anxiety. I know I feel, a little bit of depression when I'm only seeing students. When we were in school 5 days a week, I would see a student and think, is this going to be the last time I see him until next week or something,
Right.
You get used to seeing those kids 5 days a week, and you think any day you're going to get a call saying, okay, our school district is now moving to hybrid, or we're now going remote. So that fear of losing those kids' interest, I think, is always a concern. So I wish I would have, in those August 1st of September months, I wish I would have tried to connect a little bit more socially and emotionally, because I think once we saw things weren't going the way we wanted it to, then we tried to pick up those pieces and connect with those kids socially and emotionally. So that probably would have been what I told my August self was, first and foremost, like, let's just connect with these kids and tell them like it's okay.
Right. I love that you brought up that point, because I tell teachers all the time, your in-class time or in-person time is like gold now, right? I mean, it's so important that you take full advantage of that. It's like, and I try to tell teachers this, it's like, okay, if you have in-class time, the last thing I think you should be doing is watching a TestOut video. Let them do that at home. Let them watch that on their bus ride, Mary, right? So let them watch it outside of class, because that ability to create a connection that you're talking about, Kelly, is so vital this year. I mean, it's been that way in the past, right? So that's that student-teacher relationship and that trust that you have to build.
Right, but I think we were always guaranteed that. We always felt like we were guaranteed that next day.
Right.
And this year, it's really hard that every day that passes could be, the last day we see those students until next week, or so. Yeah, I think it's really important.
And I'm glad you also brought up kind of that social, and maybe you guys can maybe just add something to this, because like I said, I see it. I talk to teachers all day long, every day across the nation. So, and I live with it too. But just the ability for a student to engage, and that a teacher, one, that you care. There's a reason why you're coming to class, connecting. One of the biggest challenges I've seen, and this was talking to another teacher, my own wife. Students, because of maybe their financial situation with their parents, they're now working. So if you go completely online, they're now working. They're picking up shifts during the day, and you can't blame them if there's a financial situation at home and they're having to help contribute there. I mean, that's been an issue that we would have never thought that was something that's been going on. But maybe I don't know. You two have any insight into some of those just emotional? How are you connecting? How are you encouraging just emotional well-being for your students?
I tend to just reassure them that, like, any feelings that they have are normal. Are you guys feeling scared, or are you feeling sad? Are you feeling anxious? Like, just know that those feelings are normal right now. A lot of the staff are feeling those. I constantly put out, like, hey, just a reminder, like, guidance counselors, your emails are on the back of my board. So, always check in if you check with a guidance counselor. So, I mean, that's kind of how, I've tried to, anytime you can make a situation a little bit fun and lighthearted, like making up the stories about Ben, or now I know his name is Stuart on the video. It kind of takes their guard down a little bit. Sometimes I feel like when they're in class only 2 days a week, they feel like they have to be like, get this stuff done. And it's like, let's just relax for a minute. And so.
And Mary, with your environment where, you're getting shipped in kids and bussed in from different areas, and one day this school's on, I mean, what'd you call your little notebook? Your who's on first book? I mean, has that been hard to connect with the students and have the students connect with each other because of that?
It puts a strain on it for sure. I think the big thing is, like, attitude is everything. Like, especially for us, if we go in with a positive attitude, we're going in, we're smiling. At least it kind of, I believe it makes a difference for them. because if you're coming in and it's hitting you, and it's hard not to hit you as a teacher, all of this that you're dealing with. And I watch the governor's speeches here for Illinois every day at like 2:30, and I'm like, gosh, I sit there and look, I'm like, there's somebody who has it way worse than I do. I mean, I look at the comments and I'm like, they're horrible. They're just horrible. And people here are just fighting constantly, and that's why our cases in this area continue to rise. So I try to bring an element of positivity with the whole, like, we can get through this together, we can do this. And I kind of, like, sometimes I'll tie it in with IT, in general, is kind of like the field is it can be a headache. So, know what you're getting into, like today, a backup plan for the backup for the backup. I'm
Right.
a backup kind of gal, and I like to have a plan B, plan C, plan D if I can. Doesn't always work that way, but, I always try to come in and set my personal things aside and try to find that, my quote that I always say is like, there's a ray of sunshine somewhere. You just got to sometimes dig deep for it. Sometimes it's way deep, 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 and surround yourself with positive people that are the same, because, I always think some people are just grumpy, and I'm like, find a ray of sunshine somewhere. It's there. Please go find it. Because it's
Yeah.
just so bad.
And teachers don't realize, but that's they are that light sometimes that the students don't necessarily have anywhere else. And so
Right.
that's why I tell my wife she can't quit. She's, like, you need to be that light. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like, every year I get another 200 kids that I adopt, and I know now stories about Dylan and all these other kids that I hear these stories about, what they're going
Mm-hmm.
through in that life. So, well, I appreciate you both for taking the time today.
No problem.
You're both wonderful, and I appreciate your efforts to just share out with other teachers what we're doing, and hopefully they got some ideas, and if nothing else, they're seeing the same thing, and they're not alone in a lot of this regard. So I appreciate it.
No
Yeah,
problem.
thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Very nice to meet you.
You too.
Right.
Yeah.